And here we go with a very, very delayed week 17 of On Top the Cage. I have a lot of explaining to do. Obviously, our normal shoot date is Wednesday. It is Friday, and it is exactly 7:20 p.m. out here in the Flying Turtle Lounge. The explanation is that Dan got really sick on Tuesday. There was questions whether or not he could shoot on Wednesday, and then I got really sick on Wednesday. You can probably hear my voice still. I'm considerably better. Thursday was not an option. Dan had plans with his family for the Browns game, and then Dan got kiboshed from coming over here today because of my illness. So, shockingly, without precedence, we have a guest picker again. Strawman Dan previously was an animated picker, or lack of animation, I don't know. In any event, I introduced to you Danta Claus. Danta Claus as our guest picker. I told you the tour of guest pickers, or at least the kid guest pickers, was going to be over after last week. Wrong a little bit about that. He's not a spring chicken, so he's not a kid. But anyway, Danta Claus is on the show. Like I said, I tell you what, we made it through the COVID season, Dan and I did, without missing a beat. I think we shot every week on Wednesday. 2 times this year. No COVID, no nothing, bullshit like that necessarily. In any event, probably the second time in 2 months where I have a guest picker or guest host on my show who's probably not going to be terribly vocal. In any event, that's what happened. That's why there was a monstrous delay. I don't want to not thank Keaton. Keaton was the guest picker last week. We'll talk about his record, coming up when we do last week's results, things like that. I have a lot of stuff written on the board, and some of it's not really going to apply anymore because of date and because Dan's not here. In any event, we had a great Christmas here. Tons of people in here. We had people here from Atlanta, people here from South Florida, people here from Kentucky. So we had a full house. At one point in time, we had 6 dogs in here. For the most part of the time, we had 5 dogs. I mean, it was wild in here. It was a great time. I think I lacked a little bit of holiday spirit. I don't know. Maybe you penalize me? Like, sprinkle some COVID dust on me or something like that? When I was sleeping, waiting for your arrival, since I didn't have the holiday spirit? I don't know. In any event, we did have a great Christmas here. It was a lot of fun. It all happened. I know Dan had a good Christmas too. I've talked to him via text and briefly on the phone. I saw him. He brought the board over here, which you guys can't see, and which is my cheat sheet for what I talk about on the show. So, anyway, I wasn't the only one missing the Christmas spirit, though. My good buddy, my neighbor Brian, lives just across the street here, a house down. He came over here on Christmas Day night. I want to say it was like 10 p.m. He was fucking wound up, man. He was so happy. He's like, Christmas is over. So, I don't know. I think he maybe puts too much weight on his shoulders or too much stress, things like that. So, I guess I wasn't the only one missing the Christmas spirit. There's something on the board that says, favorite present. I was going to ask Dan that question. I still not really asking the question, but I did get a couple of pictures from Dan. He got a new fridge for his garage. Dan has, in his garage, he has kind of a dorm-sized fridge is what I would call it. I don't know if that's the appropriate term. But it's beautiful. It's Bud Light. It's got the logo on it. It's that light blue, royal blue color. Whatever the situation is, I know he's got it all installed and full with his drinks that he has in there. So he's excited about that. So that was our Christmas. It's your portion of the show, Danta Claus. Beer review. He's not gonna do it. I gotta do it. Funny thing here. We're not going to do the beer review that I was expecting to do because I think Dan will be a favorite or a fan of the beer that we were going to do. But I was putting some Christmas decorations away. And by the way, not only a wild set change with my animated Danta Claus here, it's all down in here in the Flying Turtle Lounge where we shoot the show. It went down on Tuesday. Tuesday night when I got back from work. I still wasn't feeling off or anything like that. I took the whole thing down. I'm an early up, early down guy. that's what happened. I got the majority of the outdoor stuff down as well today, so making some progress on that. The inside is still fully blown at Christmas, and that's a lot of work, and hopefully I don't have to take too much part of that. Besides that enormous forestry, I'm sure I'm going to be tasked with that. But on the beer review, the reason why this beer review happened, a couple of reasons. One, this motherfucker's been sitting in my basement for like 2 years. It's called Coffee Siberian Night. One reason why I never made it last year is because it was never cold enough. I was waiting for that night where Dan and I were gonna shoot, and it was gonna be 10 or 15 degrees. It never happened. And then this year I learned that Dan hates any coffee infusion in his drinks, so I figure I might as well do it. It's from the Thirsty Dog Brewing Company. Like I said, Coffee Siberian Night. It's an imperial stout. It's 9%. I don't know if I'm gonna like it. It's got like this wolf with like green eyes on it, and it's got this black top. Like, I'm a little bit fucking nervous about drinking this and what's gonna happen. But here we go with this. Oh shit, like motor oil. That awkward pause, since I don't have Dan here by my side as I pour. Oh hell. I mean, I could do 9%, but damn. Cheers to the new year. That's a lot. I can taste the coffee. Dan would absolutely fucking hate it, I'm sure. But anyway, this is what's going to happen over the next 45 minutes to an hour. I don't know how long the show will be. Anyway, on the New Year's, the next time you see Dan and I will be in 2024. Pretty wild to say, just hearing it. But anyway, we don't have any plans. We never do anything. I mean, I used to refer to it as amateur night, and I act like we don't do anything on New Year's, but we don't do anything anytime. We don't do a whole hell of a lot here. So we're going to be here. We're actually dog sitting for friends. I think they have a wedding in Michigan. So their dog got it dropped off here. It's fitting in just fine. Fuck, I'm used to it, man. We had 6 fucking dogs here over Christmas. Hey, add one more. We got 4 right now. It's like nothing. It's like an old hat. So Sammy the dog, who are good friends, dropped off today. I think they come and get him on Sunday. But we don't have any really New Year's plans. I tell you what, it's the board. I'm watching football on Sunday. We have football this week. We had Thursday, and then we have one game on Saturday, and then we have a full slate on Sunday. No Monday Night Football. That's reserved for college football on January 1st as the playoff games happen. So I don't have a whole lot of plans. I don't know. There's another thing on the board as I was scanning. It said favorite present. I mentioned Dan's. I got quite a few presents too. I never ask for anything because if I want something, I fucking go buy it. I don't know. I got a DNA dog test. It's specifically for Oliver. We know who Oakley and Tucker, what their breed is. I have no fucking idea what Oliver is. We picked him up 8 years ago or so from the Licking County Pound here in Ohio. Licking County is a county just east or so of the Columbus area. I have no idea what that's. Dude, I have no idea. I don't know, Chihuahua, Mastiff together, I don't know. Like, he's a wild-looking dog a little bit. I love him to death. So that was one of my favorite presents. I also got quite a few other things. I got a heated vest I got to try. I don't know. I'm out here a lot. I'm a little nervous about the heated vest. Might light myself on fire somehow. I have a tendency to smoke cigarettes in crunch time during football games. Anyway, maybe divulging more than I should, but that's what's going to happen here on New Year's. I think we're on to last week's records as I drink my motor oil. Dan went 8-8. He is currently 128, 106-6 on the year. Very impressive. Plus 22. He hit his elephant pick yet again with the Cleveland Browns. He improved his record to 8-6-2. I went 10-6 last week. I am currently 131, 103-6. That's plus 28. Solid numbers. I don't think Dan and I ever reached 30 plus. I would like to. I don't know if we can both do it. I don't think we can both do it. But I certainly got a chance. Starting this week, I lost my elephant pick, Buffalo, with an awful performance across the coast in LA. We'll talk about it when the games come up on the board. My record is 9-6-1. Keaton, once again, thank you for Keaton for being a guest picker last week. He went 7-9. As the kids have a tendency to see, it's not that fucking easy. It's not that easy. So anyway, Dan's not here. We wouldn't be doing shots because Dan has a 500 record this week, but he's not here. Dana Claus is. I went 10-6. I do a shot. Little beer. They never fail you. As my wife says, so good, so good. Anyway, I told you Thursday, we had a football game. It's Friday. It happened. Dan and I were both, well, let me introduce the game. It was the Jets playing in Cleveland against the Browns. The Browns were 7-point favorites in the football game. Dan and I were both on the Cleveland Browns, -7. I understand. It's time-stamped. It's on our On Top of the Cage Facebook page. I put out a little explanation that Dan and I both fell ill for a bit and that we weren't going to be able to shoot the show until Friday. As it turns out, he's still not here with his kiboshing. In any event, we were both on the Browns -7. It was the Jets in Cleveland. The Jets, I'll tell you what, the way that game looked last night, you know, we talked about how great that defense is. It looks like they're ready for fucking vacation, man. I'm not going to take anything away from the Cleveland Browns and Joe Flacco and that performance that they put on at home. Flacco continues to get the ball out on time. You know, the defense is still pretty good. It's playing pretty good. I mean, they're the number 1 ranked defense in the National Football League. Still, Dan didn't have Flacco fever. He has that, but he also had another fever. That's why he wasn't here. So we'll see. The Browns are currently the 5 seed in the tournament, and I think they're cemented into it. I don't think that the Baltimore Ravens are going to relinquish that division. And I think the Cleveland Browns will play the winner of that AFC South. And the crazy thing about that with the Browns, and I'm talking a little bit about this game that already happened, but there's a lot of local people who watch the show as well, and they love the Browns. They're going to play the winner of the AFC South. And the thing about this is they've beaten all 3 of the contenders for the AFC South title. The AFC South is a 3-way tie right now between Jacksonville, Indianapolis, and Houston. The Browns have beat all 3 of them this year, Dana Claus. What do you say? Nothing. Fucking nothing. Nothing. I have a feeling I'm going to get crickets the rest of the show. Anyway, Dan and I were both on the Browns -7. We have one football game on Saturday. It's at approximately 8 p.m. It's on ESPN. A good football game, man. The Detroit Lions travel to play the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys are 5.5-point favorites. Detroit, 11-4 on the year. The Cowboys are 10-5. Now, Detroit, 11-4. They come off of their win in Minnesota. And they clinched the NFC North. So they're currently the 2 seed, but they're fighting for the 2 seed with, I think, probably the winner of that Philadelphia-Dallas division. It's a big deal as the tournament goes on. I think the defense for Detroit needs to play a little bit better. But they're a scary team, man. They're a scary team because they have a ton of offensive playmakers, and this is an offensive league. I like that team going forward. I wouldn't want to see them. And then you got Dallas. Dallas, 5.5-point favorite once again. Losers of 2 in a row. They lost that big back-and-forth game in Miami. It happened on Christmas Eve. It was an awesome football game. I had all kinds of Fins fans in town. Kevin was here. Tom was here. By the way, Tom, he left. He did the math, man. Math undefeatedly hard once again. But he did the math, and he said over the last 2 months in November, December, he said it was 61 days. He was here for 28 of them. That's a pretty good number. That's just shy of 50% if I can do the math correctly. But anyway, Dallas lost that game. A fun game, back and forth football game. So anyway, we'll see what happens. They're back to the wild card spot. Philadelphia owns that division right now. Dallas -5.5 in this game. Dan sent me his picks. He's on the Cowboys -5.5. I'm not so sure. I think it's too big of a number. I'm going to go with Detroit. I'm going to take the points. I think this is a very good competitive football game. I like the offensive weaponry from the Detroit Lions. We'll see. I mean, Dallas very well may bounce back. They've been really, really good at home. Not so much on the road, but they've been a tremendous team on the road. I get where Dan would go on that game with the Cowboys, even though I know he doesn't like that franchise because he gets forced to watch them more than he would like. In any event, that was Saturday football. The Sunday 1 p.m. slate starts with by far the marquee game of the week. It is 100% the best game of the week. The marquee game of the week is the Miami Dolphins traveling up I-95 the coast to play the Baltimore Ravens. Ravens are 3.5-point favorites in this football game. Miami 11-4 on the season. The Baltimore Ravens are 12-3. Miami, I just talked about it. They came off that huge win at home. They got the monkey off their back, man. Monkey off the fucking back. All the, if anybody watches Hard Knocks, I don't have, you little handsy with me, Santa? Watch yourself. I'm sure I'm on the naughty list already for cussing too much. He's undecided about that right now. Anyway, Miami got the monkey off the back. They won that game against a team with a winning record. So, and that's a narrative we've heard about that football team. They can't beat a good football team. They did. And then you got Baltimore. They went out to San Francisco. They kicked the shit out of the 49ers. I mean, it was a fucking dominant blowout win in San Francisco. I think Lamar Jackson may have cemented his MVP position in regards to that game. I mean, I was shocked. I didn't think that was going to happen. They played a tremendous football game out there. They play with a chip on their shoulder. This is a monster football game because here's the deal. If Miami goes into Baltimore and wins this football game, they take control of that 1 seed based upon tiebreakers. They would have to win their next game, and it's a very difficult game against Buffalo at home. But Baltimore, they have a chance to clinch the 1 seed, and it's super important. I mean, it's the bye in the tournament. I mean, getting the bye is just a monstrous thing. So there's a lot on the line in this football game. Dan went with the Miami Dolphins, getting the 3.5 points. I have a hard time going that way. Based upon that performance. And I know maybe it was a little bit of fool's gold. I don't know. But that performance by the Baltimore Ravens, I mean, both these teams have a ton to play for in this game because that bye is huge. But I'm going to go with Baltimore minus 3.5. So Dan and I are at odds in 2 of the first 3 games. Luckily, we're both 1-0 on the current week, if you will. Next game on the board is New England division game. New England traveling to Buffalo to play the Buffalo Bills. Bills are minus 14. That's a full 2 touchdowns, Dana Claus. No? All right. Anyway, it'll always be awkward. It was fucking awkward with Strawman. Dan is just as awkward with Dana Claus. Anyway, New England, they're 4-11 on the season, but they come off a really big win. Well, they're not a big win, but a really impressive performance in Denver, where the Bailey Zappi kid played well. Their defense is always somewhat stout, resistant, whatever you want to say. But that was a very good performance. They won the game at the buzzer. And then Buffalo. They won that football game out on the West Coast against the Los Angeles Chargers, but that was an awful fucking performance. Like an awful performance. They barely escaped the Chargers, who are completely in flux. They had fired Brandon Staley the week before. They don't know what to do. Justin Herbert wasn't playing. Some dude named Easton Stick is playing quarterback, and they barely won the fucking football game. However, with that win, they moved into the 6th seed. They're back inside. They're not, they're not on the outside looking in anymore. They're in. As long as they continue to perform well. Obviously, they're huge favorites. Dan's taking the points with New England. I have a tendency to go with him. I mean, 14 is a big number. Maybe Buffalo comes in here and, shows some more mettle, but I can't get 14 points watching that performance that they put on out in L.A. last week, because that was not a good performance. So Dan and I are both on the Patriots, getting a full 2 touchdowns. In the game, the next game on the board, the Atlanta Falcons travel to play my Chicago Football Bears. I am wearing colors at a minimum. They're still alive. The Bears are still alive. The Bears are 2.5-point favorites in this football game. Atlanta's 7-8 on the season. The Bears are 6-9, but still clinging to life. They may get eliminated this week depending on what happens with other games, even if they do win. But Atlanta, they come off a very impressive win at home against Indianapolis, where they put up points. And I don't know if it was a defensive no-show from the Colts, but maybe it was a switch to Taylor Heineke at quarterback. I mean, the kid's feisty. He's athletic. He's got a good arm. Man, I don't know. I mean, he's going to remain the quarterback. I think that really Atlanta's only real chance to make it to the playoffs is to catch New Orleans, who they're a game behind. Right, or not New Orleans. Catch Tampa Bay, who they're a game behind right now in that NFC South, and that's a dogfight to the finish. And there's a really important NFC South football game coming up on the board, probably half a dozen games later. But Atlanta, they need to get Bijan more involved, if you ask me. And the Bears, they're playing so much better. They're so much a better football team than they were at the beginning of the season. They started the season 0-4. They fucking buried themselves completely. I think they were 2-7 at one point in time. They're currently 6-9. The defense is playing so well. They're become a turnover machine. The addition of Montez Sweat was like the missing piece for that defense, and they're playing with swag. Bears -2.5. I love the Bears in this football game. Short of a field goal, I'll 100% take it. Dan was on them as well. I don't know if there's been a week that Dan hasn't picked the Bears. In any event, we are both on the Bears -2.5 in the football game. Next game on the board, another division game. Tennessee plays Houston. Houston 3.5-point favorites in this game. Tennessee 5-10 on the season. The Houston Texans are 8-7. Tennessee, they come off of their home loss against Seattle, where they had a lead like the entire game and they coughed it up at the end. Seattle saved their season, but Seattle's not on the board. So, it's a lost season for the Tennessee Titans. And that's all fine because it's not really a lost season if you ask me. I think they found their quarterback in Will Levis. Sorry, I'm dicking with the screen back here. He's played really well. And, hey, if you find that piece, the chess piece that you need, and he's the quarterback going forward, it's a successful season. Then we talk about Houston. Boy, are they missing C.J. Stroud. I think he's out of concussion protocol and going to play this week. They need him back so bad because the other backup quarterbacks, whether or not it was Davis Mills or the other cat that played, I forget his name, but it doesn't change things. They got absolutely blown out by Cleveland. I mean, blown out by Cleveland at home. But meanwhile, they're still in that three-way tie for that AFC South. And one of those teams is going to make the playoffs and make the tournament. So Houston -3.5 in this game. CJ's back. I'm 100% taking him. Dan took the Tennessee Titans. I would like to question about his reasoning behind that. I don't know what it is. And it makes it even more awkward doing this show. More even so than when we did the show with Strawman Dan. Because the reason why we shot the show with Strawman Dan was completely different than this one. We had previously shot the show less than 24 hours before that. So I knew exactly what Dan had said, or I recalled what Dan had said, his perspective on where he went with his picks and why he went there with his picks and things like that. I don't have that at all. I got a sheet of paper from Dan that said, here are my picks. So I don't have that background in regards to our situation that happened last time with Strawman Dan. And I don't know who outdueled who. I don't know, Dana Claus or Strawman Dan. But anyway, I'm on Houston -3.5. I like them a lot in this football game. Probably a candidate for me for best pick. But we'll see. That's not yet. Next game on the board. Las Vegas travels to play the Indianapolis Colts. Colts 3.5-point favorites in this football game. Las Vegas 7-8 on the season. The Colts are 8-7. Las Vegas, they come off a very impressive win in Kansas City. That team has played really hard for Antonio Pierce. They went in there, they created turnovers. They kind of bullied the Kansas City Chiefs, if you ask me, in that game. I saw a good chunk of it. I was on the winning side of that thing for sure. I know Dan and I both took the points in that game last week, and they won the football game outright. I don't know if they circled the stadium or not, but hell, they should have after that performance. I don't know if Antonio Pierce let them do that. And then we talk about Indianapolis. We did talk about them briefly earlier. They went to Atlanta, and their defense was an absolute no-show. I mean, a fucking no-show. I mean, Atlanta put up a ton of points on them, but Indy's currently, as a wild card, they're currently listed as a 7th seed. So they're on the inside right now, but we'll see. I mean, big football game, -3.5. They got a ton to play for. Dan and I are both on the Colts, -3.5 in this football game. So we'll see. Next game on the board. Another important game for that AFC South. We keep on talking about AFC South stuff. It is the Carolina Panthers, who are 2-13, traveling to Jacksonville to play the Jacksonville Jags, who are 8-7. One of those three teams. I keep on recapping that. Jacksonville, Indy, Houston. Dogfight to the finish. Who's going to go in? Who's going to be left on the outside looking in? It's probably going to be two of these teams. Maybe one of them makes it as a wild card. I don't know. But it's an intriguing finish to the season. Jacksonville. This line was huge. And then there's question marks about Trevor Lawrence. Handsy again. Trevor Lawrence playing. I think he's going to play. The line opened up at -7. It's dipped all the way to -4. And I don't think it's because of the teams. I think it's because of concern over whether or not T-Law is going to play. I think he is. Anyway, Carolina, they come off of their home loss against Green Bay, where Carolina's been much more game the last couple of weeks. And that game finished. Green Bay had a big lead, and then it was tied. And Carolina had a chance to shove that game in overtime. They got a play. They got down in field goal range, and the time expired. Like, they thought they had spiked the ball to set up Eddie Pinheiro for a game-tying field goal to shove that game into overtime. The refs ruled otherwise. It was a little bit of controversy in that game, but meanwhile, good things for Carolina as Bryce Young is kind of showing signs of life, finally. They paid a monster bounty to my Chicago Bears. They need some positives at the end of the season from Bryce Young. He's played pretty well the last 2 weeks. I talked about Carolina, 2-13 football team for quite a while. Let's talk about Jacksonville, who's riding a 4-game fucking losing streak. I haven't gotten very far through my beer because I don't have the pause of Dan talking and, giving his perspective on things. I'll take another drink, fuck it. Jacksonville, four-game losing. This team's too good to be riding a 4-game losing streak. They come off a loss in Tampa Bay where they got fucking smoked. I mean, they got fucking smoked. And I can't wait to talk about the Buccaneers, who are a red-hot football team. But anyway, T-Law's not playing well. I don't know if it's injury, what it is. But these are must-win football games. Carolina -4. I'll buy that all day. They got to bounce back. I love this game. It's another game for me, candidate elephant pick. Dan and I are both on the Jacksonville Jaguars -4. Next game on the road, game on the board is the Los Angeles Rams traveling to play the New York Giants. Speaking about being on the road, holy hell, this is a trip for the Rams. That's all the way across the country, and they've been installed as 6-point favorites in this football game. The Rams, they come off an impressive win at home against New Orleans. They're 8-7. They are currently the 6th seed in the playoffs at the tournament started today. And I tell you what, I've watched this team the last few weeks. I wouldn't want to see this team in the playoffs, man. I would not want to see this team in the playoffs. They have a competent defense. They have a veteran quarterback who appears to be very healthy, and they have a fucking emerging star in Kyren Williams. Number 23, man, he runs hard. He catches balls out of the backfield. I saw him stick a linebacker on a blitz last week. I'm like, motherfucker, yeah, you're him. He's him. And then you got Puka Nacua. I mean, these kids are excited. I mean, this team's exciting. They're fun to watch. And then you got the Giants. It is all the way across the country. Tyrod Taylor came in relief. He played well. He's the quarterback going forward on this football team. The Tommy DeVito era probably is over, but hopefully for Tommy DeVito, hopefully for him, that he showed enough in his games that he got to play that he'll catch on with the team as a backup quarterback, things like that. I mean, backup quarterback in the National Football League, great fucking gig. Like, possibly the best gig in the world. You go home, you don't have a bruise on your body, and you just collected $1 million paycheck. Thank you. Anyway, Rams -6. Dan loves this football team as well. Dan took the Rams -6. I'm not. It's a long trek across country. Dan and I talk about how that can get you, but I mean, the Rams have a ton to play for. The Giants don't have anything to play for. They're 5-10. They come off a loss in Dallas, where they were game though. I mean, Dallas didn't play well, but they lost the football game, but they were in it. I think they're game again this week. I'm going to take the points with the Giants getting the 6. Next game on the board is the Arizona Cardinals traveling to play the Philadelphia Eagles. That's cross country as well. Arizona 3-12 on the season. The Philadelphia Eagles are 11-4 and huge favorites, -12 at home. I get it. Arizona comes off of their loss in Chicago. They're a lousy team. They're not a good football team. I watched the entire game, obviously, because I'm a Bears fan. I thought Kyler Murray played fairly well. I don't think they switch quarterbacks. I mean, they're going to be at the top of the draft. Probably 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. Probably 2, 3, 4. If I'm them, fucking Maserati Marv for sure. Man, I would not pass on that motherfucker. His dad has jeans. I think he's a better player than his dad. His dad has a yellow jacket. So I would not ever pass on that cat. Anyway, Philadelphia, they come off of their win against the Giants. But this team looks off, man. I mean, they look completely off. I'm looking at Santa Claus like I'm waiting for Dan to talk to me about this as well and say, yeah, there's something wrong. What's wrong? I mean, this team either plays to the level of competition or has a Super Bowl hangover or whatever the situation is. They do not look like the same team. Maybe a switch gets flipped. I don't know. But they haven't played well. They're minus 12 in this football game. Dan's laying the entire number. I hate it, but I'm going to too. I mean, I saw Arizona play. I saw the Bears beat them pretty soundly. The Bears are not the same team as Philadelphia, although they're playing really well. Anyway, Dan and I are both on the Philadelphia Eagles, giving a big number at home at minus 12. The next game on the board, a huge, huge football game. And I think the most important football game, aside from that marquee game with Miami traveling to Baltimore, it's the New Orleans Saints traveling to play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Saints are 7-8. The Buccaneers are the opposite record, 8-7. Bucs hold the one-game lead, the very precious one-game lead in this NFC South. And this is a situation where the winner goes in, the losers who don't make it through go out in regards to this division. Tampa Bay minus 2.5 in this football game. New Orleans is 7-8 on season. They come off a loss in LA, but they were out of it. They were back in it. You know, they're not a horrible football team, but here's the thing. They know they have to win this football game to have any chance of making the playoffs. So they have monster motivation. But, I mean, you can say the same thing, I think, about Tampa Bay. I mean, they can cement this division possibly this week with a home win against the New Orleans Saints. This team's red fucking hot. They won 4 straight football games. Baker Mayfield is on fire. Yeah, they're talking about, hey, let's give this guy an extension maybe. He's played that well. The defense is playing well. Minus 2.5 in this football game. No way I'm not going against the Bucs. 5-game winning streak for the Bucs, minus 2.5. Another candidate. I like a few games. I might be throwing quite a bit of money around this week. God damn, did I take a bitter loss last night on a fucking awesome parlay because Jerome Ford didn't get 13 carries and got 12. In any event, that has nothing to do with the show. Dan and I are both on the Bucs minus 2.5 in the football game. Next game on the board, San Francisco goes across the country. A lot of cross-country shit going on this week. To play the Washington Commanders. Huge favorites. San Francisco minus 13.5 in this football game, just shy of 2 touchdowns. They're 11-4. San Francisco comes off that home loss against Baltimore. What the fuck? They're currently the 1 seed, but their defense absolutely got gutted, Santa Claus. I'll cuss so much, I'm sure I'm on the 2024 naughty list. While I'm on the naughty list, you need to shave your fucking eyebrows, man. Those things are thick. God damn. Anyway, San Francisco 13.5. Traveling to play the Washington Commanders. I mean, Brock Purdy looked like, he didn't look like the MVP, Santa Claus. He looked like the last pick in the draft, which he was. I mean, he threw the ball right and left to the Baltimore defense, not taking anything away from the Baltimore defense. And then we talk about Washington. They lost that game against the New York Jets, like shockingly a high-scoring affair. I want to say that final was 30-28. They were down early, and then they fought back, had to lead. They lost it at the end. It looks like Jacoby Brissett, who's going to be playing quarterback going forward for this team. But then, I mean, we have more injury information. Literally, it's Friday, right? It's Friday. So we have a lot more injury news. Brissett was scheduled to be the quarterback this week, and then he hurt his hamstring in practice. I think he's going to play. I don't know how much it changes things. Dan, this is the one game you didn't write down. You missed it. I'm looking at your little note here. This is Dan's picks that he paperclipped to the board, and he missed this game. He did not pick this football game. I'm going to give him the 49ers, my team, minus 13.5. I'm going to roll with him as well. I am. We'll see. I don't know. That's Robert Jones says, no, do not do that. I know, Robert. I know. I got burnt by it with Buffalo last week. I'm doing it again. I'm going to lay the 13.5. It's short of 2 touchdowns. They do not want to lose that 1 seed, and it would be in jeopardy if they did. They 100% don't want to do that. Dan and I are both on the 49ers, giving a huge number on the road, minus 13.5. The Sunday 4 p.m. slate starts with the Pittsburgh Steelers traveling out northwest to play the Seattle Seahawks. Pittsburgh 8-7 on the season. Seattle shares the same record, 8-7. Seattle 3.5-point favorites in this football game. And Pittsburgh, let's talk about that. That win against Cincinnati. I predicted it. I did. I was the only one between Dan Keaton and myself last week on the Steelers. I thought Mason Rudolph might spark them. 'Tis the season. What do you think about Rudolph? Yep, still got a red fucking nose, right? Yep. Like a deer in headlights. You get it? You get the joke? Deer in headlights? This fucking guy, I swear. Anyway, it's Pittsburgh at Seattle. I'm making myself laugh at this point in time. That was not on the board. Anyway, their season's still alive. That was a huge win against Cincinnati. Rudolph played well. I tell you what, George Pickens, you should never block again. If you don't block, you apparently catch multiple touchdowns and get like 200 yards a fucking game. Don't ever block a fucking again. You're a way better player when you don't block and act like an asshole teammate. Go for the assholeness, if you will. I don't know. And then they go to Seattle, and Seattle comes off of that win against Tennessee. It wasn't tremendously impressive. I mean, it's never easy in the National Football League to win on the road. I get that. They were down that game for a huge chunk, and then they found a way to win the game at the end. I don't know. Currently Seattle is the 7th seed. Both these teams, they're in different conferences, but they both have a ton to play for. -3.5. Dan wrote down, I fucking hate it, but I'm taking Pitts puke. Dan's on Pitts puke. Ugh, I don't know where to go on this one. He may be right. I'm not. I'm going to lay Seattle -3.5 in this football game. I don't know. We'll see. This is a very intriguing football game. It did start the Sunday 4 p.m. slate. I think I mentioned it. And then we have a shit show of football game because I just read Dan's notes. He wrote that down too. Anyway, the Los Angeles Chargers play the Denver Broncos. Broncos 3.5-point favorites in this football game. Chargers 5-10. The Broncos are 7-8. The Chargers, they come off of their loss against Buffalo, where I don't know if they were very game or did Buffalo just played really poorly or what the situation there is. I mean, I don't know if the firing of Brandon Staley the previous week sparked that team, but they played pretty well. They did. They just fell short. And then you got Denver. Comes off that home loss against New England. But the huge news out of Denver is that Russell Wilson will no longer be the quarterback the rest of the season. They're going with some dude named Jarrett Stidham, I think is his name. We've seen him, I want to say we saw him in New England in backup role. I think we saw him with the Raiders in a backup role. Apparently he's on the Denver Broncos. I don't know. We saw that pissing contest between Sean Payton, who I don't know if he should have come back and coached because he says some wild shit. He seems pretty edgy. I don't know. In today's NFL, maybe Sean Payton rules with a little bit of more of an iron fist than he should. I don't know. I'm not going to judge, I guess, that too much. But I think it's financial stuff. I think the Broncos have to pay a boat full of money if Russell Wilson has X amount of games or snaps. I don't know what the situation is. Russ Wilson is not going to be the quarterback of the Denver Broncos for the rest of the season. I have no idea how they fucking unload that awful contract. But anyway, Denver -3.5 in this football game. What did Dan say? He wrote some shit. Shit show of a game, Chargers. Dan's taking the Chargers. Jesus, I don't know. This is a fucking shit show of a game. It's probably a field goal fucking game. No, I'm laying points again. Jarrett Stidham. I'm going with Jarrett Stidham. I don't know. I mean, both these locker rooms got to be like, what the hell? When we go into fucking Cancun? This is fucked. I'm done with this season. This is bullshit. Both these teams, the checkout football game, I'm going to lay the points. Dan's taking the points with the Chargers. I'm on the Bronx. Next game, pretty good football game, intriguing football game, and it's been an intriguing football game for the last few years. It seems like these teams play each other every year somehow, and they're not in the same division by any means. It is the Cincinnati Bengals traveling to play the Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs 6.5-point favorites in this football game. Cincinnati, they are 8-7 on the season. The Chiefs are 9-6, right? Cincinnati, they come off of their loss against Pittsburgh. Kind of like the Jake Browning train kind of derailed. I don't know. It came to a screeching halt. We'll see. I mean, I think he's a competent quarterback. He struggled in Pittsburgh. He 100% did. And then we got the Chiefs. They come off of that loss at home against Vegas. And I mean, they're currently a 3 seed, and currently they're the champs until they're not the fucking champs, man. They're the champs. But they have offensive issues, man. And I don't know. Travis Kelce's throwing helmets. There's maybe some division. I don't know if there's division in the locker room or not. I mean, they want to win. They know they're a competent football team, but the lack of having a one receiver, a go-to receiver, I think is really hurting this football team right now. And it's starting to rear its head. I don't think they're a very good team right now, but they're currently the 3 seed. They're minus 6.5 at home against Cincinnati. Chiefs never cover, right, Santa Claus? 100%. Dan both on the Bengals, getting the 6.5 points. I think Kansas City wins. Dan wrote on his little sheet of paper here, he thinks Kansas City wins as well, but he's 100% taking the points. He thinks it's a game down to the end. I agree with him completely. We're both on the Cincinnati Bengals, getting the 6.5 points. Sunday Night Football. Once again, we don't have any Monday Night Football because that's reserved. That's New Year's Day, and that's reserved for the college football playoffs, which start at 5 and 8. I'll talk a little bit about that in the outro. But we are on to the last football game here. It is the division game. The Green Bay Packers travel to play the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings are a slim favorite, 1-point favorite in this football game. Green Bay 7 and 8. So are the Vikings, 7 and 8. Green Bay, we talked about them earlier. They come off their win in Carolina. These teams are both alive. They're right now. It's kind of the loser goes home game, if you will. I mean, whoever wins this game probably still is viable going into Week 18, the final week of the National Football League season. The loser can, check their passport for where they're going, pretty much. Anyway, do or die game. Green Bay escaped Carolina. They had a big lead, and then they coughed it up. Well, they didn't cough it up completely. The game didn't get shoved into overtime, but it was very close. And then we got Minnesota that comes off of the loss in Detroit. They're still in the mix. They had defensive issues. They're changing quarterbacks yet again. No Pasternak. No, who the fuck was that guy? Mullins, who played. The Nick Mullins era is over in Minnesota as well. Jaron Hall is the quarterback. I want to say he played a game earlier in the season. He's a rookie. I want to say he's from BYU. Santa Claus, you got that? No, he does not have that. Minnesota -1 in this football game. Dan's taking the Packers. I'm not. I'm going with the Vikings. I don't know. It's at home. It's short enough. I don't know. It's a do or die game. Winner goes home. Elephant picks. I know Dan's. I have to scan the board. I tell you what, I don't make picks before I do. There's a few games I like here. One of them is Tampa. I don't think I'm going to take them. I love Tampa at home. -2.5 short of a field goal. I like Houston this week a little bit, -3.5, knowing they got to win. But I'm going to bank on T-Law playing better, being healthier, and them winning this football game against the Carolina Panthers. I'm on Jacksonville -4 as my elephant pick. Dan went with the Los Angeles Rams, -6 across country, which I know he always factors in, but he believes in that emerging star Kyron Williams and that cast of characters they have there. I actually took the Giants getting the points in that game. Dan are 100% odds. There's a few games where odds. So anyway, I apologize for the show being wildly late. I'm sure it wasn't long. I don't know. It's probably only 45 minutes long, if that. I don't know what it is. But I didn't have my buddy here to do the banner, so since it wasn't that long, I mean, the next time we're going to see you is 2024. We got bonus picks. I don't have Dan's. I'll give you bonus picks. We got college football playoff on Monday. I'm looking forward to the front game. The first game is, if you ask me, it's the national championship game. It is the Michigan Wolverines and the Alabama Crimson Tide. Michigan is a 2-point favorite in this football game. And then the nightcap is Texas versus Washington. Texas is a 4.5-point favorite over Washington. I don't know what's going to happen, and look, I live in Ohio. We fucking hate the Michigan Wolverines. But I'm tired of the fucking SEC narrative that they're better than everybody else. Go fuck yourself, the SEC. Michigan Wolverines -2 in this football game, and I think Washington beats Texas. I do, behind Michael Penix. I'm taking the points with Washington getting the 4.5. My champion, the Washington Huskies, because I can't do it. I can't force myself to pick the Michigan Wolverines to be the national champions. I wish Dan was here for this. I think that would have been a fun little moment of commentary. So anyway, that is week 17. I'm sorry about the delay. I mean, bizarre. Absolutely bizarre that I have two, referred to as animated characters. I guess they're non-animated characters between Strawman Dan and Santa Claus. A big thank you to Santa Claus for your performance. I don't know. The viewers will judge if you're better than Strawman Dan. We will see you on the flip side in 2024. Sorry for the delay. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening.